Okay, so great. So with that, Sean Dugan, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Sean Dugan. I'm the Trails Development Program Manager at the Park District. And yes, this has been a conversation that I've been waiting for a long time to have. And so thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Let's see, Captain Breed, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Captain Lance Breed. I'm in charge of police operations. I work closely with all of my colleagues here in the Park District on all things related to Ordinance 38 and trails.
Thank you, Captain Breed. I'm going to scan around here. Suzanne Wilson.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Suzanne Wilson. I work in the Trails Development Department under Sean Dugan, and I'm looking forward to listening to what everyone has to say and seeing where we can make some forward progress.
And I apologize, I'm not going to remember your rank, but David Foltz.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a police lieutenant with East Beaversville Park District, and I work under Captain Lance Breed. I was asked to attend and listen in. Pretty much just get a snapshot of the discussion here.
Great, and then I see Eric Feeler has joined us as well. Eric, do you want to say hi real quick? Eric may be multitasking, but Eric is our government affairs manager. I'm sure most of you know Eric, and he's there. And then we also have Amanda Sanders, who I think is just connecting. So Amanda is administrative assistant. She works for me, so she'll be assisting with taking notes. So with that, as I mentioned, we're really here to help facilitate conversation. At different points during this, district staff from other departments and divisions can come and join. Obviously a lot of our operations folks and others are very busy right now today. But at any point in the future, we can bring in folks from, any other department as needed as the agendas are developed. So, so with that, I'm gonna hand it over to our moderator, Lou Hexter. Lou can introduce himself and his team who's here, and then he can kind of go over the agenda and sort of discuss how he thinks this is going to go. So thank you all.
Thanks, Brian. I'm Lou Hexter. I'm with a company called MIG. We're based in Berkeley, and our purpose in being with you all today is really, as Brian said, to serve as a moderator for the group. We're 30 people on a Zoom call, so it's a tall order. If we were all in the same room, I think I would feel a little bit more connected to you in a way that we could use some body language cues, but I'm gonna do my best to scan the screen and keep track of how everybody's plugged in. But it's really an honor to join you. I'm excited to get this conversation launched. I wanted to introduce my colleague, Maria Mayer, who is also on the call, and she is, along with Amanda, making sure that we're capturing your ideas and comments, and she's using a visual whiteboard or a virtual whiteboard that we'll share with you shortly, just to show you how we're capturing your ideas and comments. And Amanda, as I said, is also taking typewritten notes or computerized notes. Just a little background on myself. I am a Marin County resident, so I have a little bit of sensitivity to what's going on in the wildfire scenarios right now. And I would like to echo what Brian said just about all of the stresses and stressors that we're convening this meeting under, including wildfires, including the pandemic, including economic stress, parenting, children and schooling, and all of that is really going on. And I don't know about you all, but it's definitely compounded. Every day seems to be another challenge to face. And so I appreciate, I think, what Brian said about having patience in these sessions with one another. There isn't really a serious urgency that we're working under in these conversations, but really in terms of a time urgency. So there is space for us to have some conversations over the next several sessions about how we view using the trails in the district. A little bit more about me. As I said, I'm a Marin County resident. I am an avid trail user, much more so in the last couple of years, getting out in the Marin County trails and really enjoying access to nature in a really important way. And as was said earlier, I think one of the first things I noticed about the shelter in place was that people were really coming to an even greater appreciation of open space, of parks, being able to be out in nature when we're mostly just really confined. And so I think I was noticing a lot of interest in the trails happening. Maybe you all have seen some of the same things. I am not a parks and trails expert, so don't look to me for technical expertise necessarily, although I have moderated a number of park and open space and trails discussions over the years, most recently with Mid-Penn Open Space District, where we were convening a community group around public access to one of their new preserves, or newly acquired preserves, relatively newly acquired. I've also worked here in Marin County with an accessible trails group that was looking to make trails accessible to people with mobility impairments. And so that's some background on me. And Maria is an associate of mine. As I mentioned, she'll be taking notes. I wanted to, before I open it up to all of you, just remind you of the agenda that was set out earlier. Today is really a formation meeting where we're just really coming together and getting organized and all on the same page as regards our purpose and charge for coming together, what the scope of our effort is, what some of the ground rules we think are important to help us manage the conversations. So in a moment, I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself, your name and your organization or organizations that you're affiliated with, something about the interests that you have in trails, whether that's, as an equestrian user or a hiker or a naturalist. And then one thing that you'd like to share with us about your hopes for what we can do together in this forum. We'll go from that, and that should take us a little while, since there's quite a few of us, to talk about what our purpose is, what the mission of this group is, and we have an established proposed mission, and we'd like your feedback on that. If you think that there's something you'd like to accomplish, since we have these folks all together in the room, then let's talk about that. So we have set aside some time for that. We'll take a break to grab something, refreshments, comfort, etc. At 11:45 was our intention, and then come back together at 12:15 to finish our conversation about forming this group and discussing some of the parameters and ground rules and operating procedures that we'll have. And lastly, we thought, we think we've convened a manageable size group that represents a variety of interests, and something in addition to just how people use the group is we're really also interested in growing the conversation to include folks who maybe have not been at the table very much. And so I think you'll see in the introductions that we've tried to capture those different perspectives, and also really welcome people who may or may not have been part of these conversations over the years. It's really a great opportunity to do that. And lastly, we'll close today by just framing what's coming next. I think we're really open, as Brian said, to hearing what you all think would be of value to this conversation. We have an idea of a frequency of meeting quarterly. As I said, I don't think there's a real strong urgency to get together more frequently. We all have a lot going on. And then how we build our agendas for the next one. And again, that's a really very participatory approach to building our agenda. So, be listening for, and we will be listening for ideas that you have about where these conversations can go. I think there will likely be a lot of technical questions that come up perhaps that you'd like the district to respond to. And I've asked the district to, kind of listen in and take in those questions. So I want to set up the expectation that perhaps not all of your questions are going to be answered today, but we are very interested in what those questions are. We'll document them and decide how we're going to disseminate those answers. So I think I can say more as we go along about how we see this group coming together and working together. And again, today is really all about these formation ideas and how you can help us make this useful to you. So with that, let me just invite us to start the introductions. I think Morris has a hand up. I'm just going to start with you, Morris, and maybe you can kind of kick us off with whatever question you have, but also your name, organization, and interest, and also one thing that you'd really like to get out of our discussions as a group. So Morris.
I can do that, but what I was raising my hand for was to suggest that since we have the bios, I have them on screen. I was going to suggest that we do the introductions in the order they are in the bios so that when somebody's talking, we can look at their bio without having to scramble through them. Great.
That's terrific. I'm happy to do it that way. I don't know that everybody has their bios up, but if you do, let's do it that way, Morris. Thank you. Do you want to?
Pam Young is at the top of the list.
Shall we get with Pam? Where are you, Pam? There you are.
Thank you, everyone. We're really honored to be part of this wonderful group. So thank you for organizing this today. I think it's going to be very productive. We're here to listen and learn. And I'm talking about Golden Gate Audubon Society. Our mission is to protect native birds and restore and protect native habitat. And we hope for this group activity to help give everyone equitable access and also preserve the quiet enjoyment of passive trails, identify and protect valuable natural resources, because that's our source for ecosystem services. What do we mean by that? Clean air, clean soil, clean water, carbon sequestration, and environmental resilience that contributes to human health, not just the health of wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, next on the list is Jim Hansen.
Great, thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Jim Hansen. I'm the conservation chair for the East Bay chapter of the California Native Plant Society. As you probably can guess, we have an active membership who uses and also contributes to stewardship of the parks, and really enjoys and looks to protecting and the incredible diverse native flora that we've got in our park system for everybody. We totally enjoy the kind of relief that the parks offer us through a lot of us are walkers. I guess what our interest is in, at least initially, kind of getting the big picture of trail use within the district, how to sustain trails over time. And, also obviously kind of a direction forward. So I think I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. And thank you both for modeling really nice, concise introductions. Appreciate that. Gary Fitz, you're next on the list.
Okay, right here.
Hi, Gary.
President of the Tilden Wildcat Horsemen's Association. I've been a runner, hiker, bicycler, and now an equestrian for the last 50 years. Our main interest here is trail safety, and we want to find ways to cooperate with other user groups to keep everybody safe. About 3 years ago, East Bay Mud was opening some trails to multi-user, and we worked with NICA, hi Austin, and the Bay Area East Bay Trails Council to come to a joint, and with the Ridge Trail, to come to a joint position on which trails to open and which not to with East Bay Mud. And we think that's a model for cooperation that we'd like to continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amelia Marshall. There you are.
Hey, hey.
You are.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Amelia Marshall. I'm a 21-year trail safety volunteer with East Bay Regional Park District and the longest serving member of the board of directors of the Metropolitan Horsemen's Association, serving Oakland and the greater East Bay since 1938. I first became interested in trail policy issues in the 1990s when I moved my horse from Marin County. I rode her in Marin for 2.5 years and then moved her closer to home in Oakland. And I was shocked at how different the experience is riding a horse in the East Bay Regional Park District compared to the experience in Marin County. Having had some conversations with others who are here today on this Zoom call, I'm really gratified that among our friends in the bicycle community and the hiking community and the environmental community, we have substantial agreement on a lot of issues. That said, the policies that are being promoted by the East Bay Regional Park District are not horse friendly. And as an equestrian advocate, the outcome I'd like to see from the work of this group is some recognition by the Park District that these sustainable trails that are proposed are going to favor bicycles and e-bikes over other types of users. And that's okay. We equestrians don't begrudge our bicyclist friends access to trails, but at the same time, a place like Crockett Hills, we don't want to ride our horses there. It's a destination pump flow bicycle park. So that being the case, if equestrians are going to be an endangered species in the regional parks, we should have some protected habitat as a mitigation to recognize the needs of safe enjoyment for all different types of user groups. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Amelia. Scott Bartlebaugh.
Good morning. I'm Scott Bartlebaugh. I'm here with the Bicycle Trails Council of the East Bay. I'm the lead trail steward at Crockett Hills, and I coordinate efforts there with park supervision and trails development. We try to do good work out there. I enjoy the park's trails for hiking, dog walking, wildlife viewing, solitude, and cycling. And cycling is my passion of how I enjoy it, but there are many ways to enjoy the trails that I understand and experience personally. My hope for this group is that we can come out of this with a collaborative path forward for creating more narrow trails and improved access for all, including bikes. Bikes don't belong everywhere, but I think there is a place for everybody on the trails. And I'm hoping we can find good solutions, and then I can get a better understanding on where other users are coming from.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you, Scott. Austin McInerney?
Yeah, thank you, Lou. And big thanks to East Bay Regional Park District staff for pulling this together. It's something that's been much needed for many years. And so I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of cyclists and really all people who get outside and like to recreate on these lands. I've been living here in the East Bay for 30 years in central Berkeley and recreate by bike primarily, but also hike on many of the parks throughout the area, and have been very active in trail advocacy as a Bay Area Ridge Trail board member for many years until I termed out after 11 years. And it was one of the real leaders in creating the current middle school and high school national cycling movement, which grew out of Berkeley High and is now in 31 states across the country. And a big aspect of that program is teaching stewardship and advocacy for multi-use trails. And so we have a program that's looking for opportunities for student athletes to participate in trail maintenance and in speaking on behalf of safe and equitable trails for all. And so my goal or desire for this group is, first and foremost, I'd like to see everyone on this call come to an agreement that the current trail network is not satisfying the needs of the public here, and in particular, the influx of inexperienced and younger people that we are seeing on the trails right now. A part of that's a recognition that bicycles, and in particular youth-sized bikes, are sold out, and there's a huge demand right now. We're seeing more users on these parks than we've ever seen before, and the current trail system is just not adequate. So with that, can we as a group collectively collaborate and figure out new opportunities for expanded access, especially closer to where the high population areas are, and to, again, make this a more equitable park system. So thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Let me invite Joseph Muzon, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your name. You'll feel free to correct me. So Joseph, you're next.
Lou, you're really good at what you do. My name has never been pronounced more accurately. Thank you.
Yay, I'll take that.
Muzon. I'm the Chief Program Officer at Outdoor Afro, and our mission is simple. It's to inspire and reconnect Black people to nature. So we are based in Oakland, and we engage in all kinds of activities outdoors: hiking, biking, canoeing, paddleboarding, and in other parts of the country, we fly fish, excuse me. But keeping it focused on this, I'd say what I personally love about the parks is that I get to forest bathe and I only have to drive 10 or 15 minutes from where I live. And to be able to do that and spend 2 to 3 hours inhaling highly oxygenated air, recognizing how soothing and meditative that is, allows me to deal with the stresses of our lives, not only my personal life, but the lives of my friends and family, as well as I can, and I can show up with that. So I'm a big proponent of park safety for diverse populations. I'm also interested in park maintenance, so that when groups of us and 15 or more, maybe half men, half women, go on 5-mile hikes, that if we come across a bathroom, that it actually works. And lastly, I'll just share one of my favorite things to do outside, and that is when I worked in the Presidio in San Francisco, I used to ride my bike from the Presidio over the Golden Gate Bridge, up to the Marin Headlands, down to Rodeo Beach, through Sausalito, over to Mount Tam, come back, grab a couple slices of pizza and go back to work. And I don't know anywhere else in the world we can do that than in the Bay Area. So thank you.
It's a great story. Thank you, Joseph. All right, Morris, we're up to you now, sir.
Hi, I'm Morris Older, and I'm glad to see this event going on and this group convening. I was the chair of the last real effort that the Park District had, the East Bay Area Trails Council, for about 4 or 5 years until it disbanded in 2015. And that was a group where, like this one, different user groups got together and talked about trail issues that we commonly shared and that we disagreed about, and worked out solutions whenever possible. For many years, I was an equestrian and organized an East Bay area, an East Bay Hills Trails Benefit hike and ride. As an equestrian, it became a hike as well as a ride. And for the last number of years, I've been much more of a hiker than a rider. In fact, I haven't been on a horse in about 2 or 3 years now. And in that time, I've hiked with literally dozens of different hiking groups, starting with the Bay Area Ridge Trail and all kinds of groups. In recent years, it's been my pleasure. On some weekends, I've hiked with a group on Sunday that was a very normal, old-fashioned kind of hiking group, and I've told them, today I'm hiking with my white hiking group. Yesterday, I hiked with the black hiking group. And the addition of more people of color on the trails in recent years, some more commonplace. I mean, there always were some people, but now there's people organizing to get out and do that. And I really feel like that's a direction that the Park District has to go in, making that issue more available through transit to trails programs and otherwise encouraging it. You know, my hope is that as a hiker and as a trail user, that this group can come together and formulate policies and guidelines that will enable the district to provide safe access to single track trails, which most of us prefer, in a variety of park settings, so that we all can enjoy the trail. This requires designing them where new trails are being created, designing them to make access, multi-use access safe for everybody. It also requires education, such as the education that the National that Nika, Austin's group, is doing and the bicycle mountain bike teams are doing, which has resulted in a lot better attitudes, I think, about most mountain bikers in the last few years. And also programs like Slow and Say Hello in Marin, where mountain bikers and equestrians get together and trade vehicles, so to speak, for a short time just to see what it's like. So my hope is that, you know, going forward, the district will enable cooperation among different trail users and access for all, including those who have traditionally been denied it.
Great. Thank you so much, Morris. Linus Uckel, you're up next.
Yeah. Thanks. Linus Uckel, John Muir Land Trust. We purchase and permanently protect open space in the East Bay. We purchase those properties based on a range of criteria: habitat, wildlife corridors, endangered species, but also connectivity as a very high criteria as to why we would move forward, public access and public recreation. So here to be supportive of this process, a number of our properties are contiguous to EBRPD, including trail connections. So we're always wanting to make sure that we're in good balance and alignment with those values. And here again to be supportive of the process and to look for best practices as things evolve and to be adaptive to those emerging practices over time. So thanks for doing this. I appreciate hearing from everybody and appreciate being able to be part of the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you, Linus. Sean Burke.
Hi, my name's Sean Burke. I'm the Land Programs Director for Save Mount Diablo. Our mission is to acquire lands in and around the Diablo Range, steward and restore these lands, and then turn them over to the state park, the HCP or East Bay Regional Park District. Until recently, I worked as a park ranger at East Bay Regional Park District, as well as in the stewardship department as a water quality manager. I'm also a big mountain ski guide, rock climbing guide, ice climbing guide, and instructor. I hike, bike, and ride horses and get out with my dogs on trails on a daily basis, other than today as a result of the smoke. And, you know, one caveat, I was hoping, since Brian Holt was saying he was taking in wayward animals, maybe I could escape Concord and be one more wayward animal in his yard. Just a quick ask. But more seriously, you know, basically I'm here in the interest of sustainable trails. As I was saying, we acquire lands and develop certain trails alongside East Bay Regional or the state park. And so we like to kind of set these trails up for these agencies beforehand. So it's just kind of a turnkey kind of deal with them. And yeah, I'm really interested in discussing multi-use trails. As a park ranger, that was definitely a topic of discussion on a daily basis for us. And, you know, I'm really interested also in incorporating leave no trace ethics at trailheads as we see more and more people come into our parks. People who are new maybe don't have the background of leave no trace, and education is key if we want to preserve these places for the future.
Terrific. Thank you, Sean. Emily Schultz.
Morning. So I am representing Valley Humane Society. We are a small rescue based in Pleasanton, but we've been in operation for over 30 years. So I'm here representing our dog community, and we have lots of adopters that do really enjoy the trails. And we just want to be sure that that our adopters and ourselves and our dog community still have a place that we can go out and enjoy the community and enjoy nature with our canine companions.
Great. Mary Barnsdale.
So I'm Mary Barnsdale, as you heard. Can you hear me? I've been having trouble with my sound. Good. Okay, so I'm a longtime parks user. I've done various things in the parks, but I dropped out of being an equestrian after a couple of concussions, which may become apparent. That was a joke. I'm involved with Point Isabel dog owners. Thank you very much for that. I'm involved with Point Isabel dog owners and various dog advocacy groups, and I'm really delighted to be part of this conversation. I would hope we would come to some dispassionate way for developing a process and guidelines for building out trails that really serve everybody and preserve the parks. And I guess that's really my main thing. I really believe in a carrot, not a stick. I think that if you provide really good access, you draw people away from the places you don't want them to be, and you still serve them. So that's kind of my guiding philosophy.
That's great. Okay. Thank you, Mary. Simone and
Najan de l'Étang.
Najan de l'Étang.
I'll help you. Yeah.
Thank
Hi,
you, Simone.
Thank you, Lou. Hi, everyone. My name is Simone. I am the most recent addition to the Ridge Trail team. So I work for the Bay Area Ridge Trail. For those of you that don't know, it's a regional trail that encircles the ridge lines of the entire Bay Area. So we're 383 miles now. But 60 miles of that, we were actually speaking with Sean about this yesterday, 60 miles about are on East Bay Regional Park District's lands. And we have 16 more planned miles to occur in the East Bay that we're actively working on. And so I guess in, representing the Ridge Trail, we are a multi-use trail. We represent hikers, bikers, and equestrians. And we really firmly believe that allowing access is one of the ways that we can be equitable and inclusive, and working together to, it's important to try to get as many benefits out of our park spaces as we can while still preserving their natural integrity. Something that is very personally important to me. I'm a hiker, but my background is in restoration ecology, and I was an environmental educator and interpreter for a long time. So we're really excited to be solution oriented with this group, and work to make our trails community happy. So thank you.
Thanks, Simone. Norman Laforce.
Yeah, it looks like they put all the Frenchies together here. So I'm Norman Laforce. I've been a Sierra Club leader on parks and open space issues going back to when I cut my teeth on the work to create the McLaughlin East Shore State Park, now some 40 years ago. I'm certainly interested, and the Sierra Club's certainly interested in seeing if there's a way to reach a consensus on issues dealing with narrow trails. I believe there is always a way to try to reach a consensus, and that's basically by listening to people and in the classic terms of how to get to yes, figuring out what kinds of core values and interests people want to join around and work together on. In that vein, I was one of the people who helped put together what became the Sierra Club plan for the McLaughlin East Shore State Park that saved the Berkeley waterfront. That was a consensus approach. Similarly, the vision that became the vision for Albany was a consensus approach that I was one of the principal people behind. So I have a long history of working towards consensus. The Sierra Club, along with STEP, Golden Gate Audubon Society, and the CNPS people were one of the first advocates for such a process with East Bay Mud when there were proposals to open up trails there. We were very gratified by that process. I think that can be used as somewhat as a model. It's a very different situation, but we had a great success there. I think everybody seems to be in agreement about that at this point. The trails issues, there's a lot of different interests and issues we need to deal with. I think one of the important things to keep in mind about our parks, particularly now in the pandemic, is that people go to the East Bay Regional Parks, and a number of people have already talked about this, to escape the helter-skelter of urban life and to go somewhere where they can have a quiet enjoyment of nature and not have to worry about whether somebody coming down the sidewalk is going to bump into them, or when they cross the street having to look both ways to make sure, even though there's stop signs, that somebody isn't running through a stop sign. And what I'm getting at is that there's a real big issue here of enjoyment of the outdoors that needs to be part of any consideration here. I also think that like a lot of processes, people often tend to focus on the most immediate concerns and most immediate resolutions, forgetting that this is supposed to be a resolution for the future. And we really need to look at what types of potential issues are going to come up and how to address those. And in that regard, we need to look at enforcement issues, education issues, as some people have already talked about, and also future demands. And in this regard, I have for a long time been talking to the Park District about the fact that e-bikes are becoming a major trail user group and use type. And that needs to be part of this discussion because they give access to disabled people and they give access to seniors. And there is going to be a demand for that. And we cannot just say, well, we'll just deal with this now. We don't, and we'll worry about that later. That's not going to solve the problem.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, Norman, for highlighting some of those. And I'll be reflecting back on a lot of what I'm hearing from some of you all as themes for us to consider as we move forward. Rickard?
Yes, this is Rickard. I am here primarily in my role as the chair of the Park Advisory Committee. For those, I think most people on the call know who we are, but for those who don't, the PAC is a group of 21 volunteers who are appointed primarily by board members and other outside agencies to advise the board on policies. And so whatever this group comes up with will ultimately come to the PAC. And so I'm here in that role. I've also appointed 2 other PAC members, Adela, who you will hear from shortly, Michael Gregory, who unfortunately could not join us today, both of whom are trail users, and as you can read in their biographies. So I'm interested in what comes out of this because it will ultimately come to us in the PAC and we will be advising the board on it. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, very, very happy that PAC is represented here. Adela? Oh.
Hi. I'm Adela Ho, and I answer to anything pronounced remotely close to that name. I've been on the PAC since for the last 6 years. My professional background is that I am a civil engineer by training. I've worked many years in public works, retired from being the public works director at the city of San Pablo. I enjoyed projects not only paving roads, but also a lot of creek restoration and urban trail projects, which continues to be an interest of mine. I am still working on a variety of projects as a consultant, including creek restoration and trail projects, as well as an urban farm with the nonprofit Urban Tilth in North Richmond. I am a longtime park user. I run, I hike, I mountain bike, I road ride, and I am one of the coaches for the El Cerrito High School mountain bike team. And I have to say that, you know, one of the things that that I love about that is the opportunity to introduce the kids to the trails in the parks and to instill respect for the trails and other trail users, and even to show them some native plants and wildlife when we get the opportunity. So it's a great educational opportunity. That said, I recognize that there are, you know, a lot of different users on the trails, and I have to say that everybody who's spoken before me, I've been sitting here nodding my head to everything, so that's great. And my hope for this group is that we will be able to collaborate and figure out how, you know, how to make trails available for everyone. And it doesn't mean that every trail has to be available to everybody, but it means that, you know, really thoughtfully looking at that and planning them out appropriately and gaining agreement by the different parties. I'm also, and one other thing, that I'm also a native plant lover, and I work with Jim Hansen on a project in East Richmond Heights, where we're really also educating the community, the local community, about the value of the native habitat.
Great.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I understand Michael Gregory is not able to be here today. I didn't see Bob Coomber from, well, just as a trail user. I haven't seen him on the call. Is Bob here? No? If not, then Bonnie Lukowitz.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Bonnie Lukowitz, representing Bay Area Outreach and Recreation Program based here in Berkeley. And my task in particular is to manage a program called Access Northern California, which previously was its own nonprofit. And basically what I've been doing is trying to create greater access to parks and trails for those that have disabled accessibility needs, which in my opinion, I think is probably the least understood and most overlooked user group, and probably the most diverse group, because disability doesn't discriminate. So my hope is that we can broaden our perspective about what makes a trail accessible, because it's much more than physical access. And I'm just happy to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Thanks so much, Bonnie. Thank you.
Oh, and I just wanted to add too that doing Zoom meetings helps to level the playing field in many ways. But so I just want to identify that I do use a motorized wheelchair. So you probably couldn't tell that from this.
Could not, and thank you for sharing that. And also good to know that you feel positive about Zoom. Not everybody is thrilled about it, but yeah, it's great, and we're really glad it's there for us to all to come together. John Aaron Graves.
Hey guys, yeah, my name's Dr. John Aaron Graves. I am a psychologist. I work as a business consultant. With regard to the trails, I am an ambassador for the East Bay Regional Parks. I'm also on the Multicultural Diversity Advisory Committee. I do a lot with the trails. I do a lot of I've done just about every trail race in the Bay Area. I get out and hike at least 2 or 3 times a week. I do a lot of birding. I've gone out and done a little bit of mountain biking. I do citizen science, so I've been out on bird counts and bat counts and a lot of other things here in the Bay Area. So today I'm really just here to listen, learn, and offer my perspective as appropriate.
Very good. Thank you. Luana Espana?
Hi.
There she is.
My name is Luana Espana, and I'm representing the Multicultural Advisory Committee today. And the Multicultural Advisory Committee for the East Bay Regional Parks brings together community-based organizations, healthcare organizations, and ethnic newspapers. And Mona Kwa from the East Bay Regional Park has brought this group together to learn about these different type of health issues impacting different diverse communities in the Bay Area, and also to help get the word out about the trails. And there's a great multicultural wellness walks that this group participates in. So my goal as far as being part of this conversation is to bring those different concerns from this particular body to any type of discussions, and also share different issues back with this group. I'm also a chair, the vice chair on the Bay Area Ridge Trail Board of Directors, and I serve on their Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I've circumnavigated the Ridge Trail and the Tahoe Rim Trail, and I grew up here in the East Bay, right by Lake Chabot. So grew up going to little trees, big trees, and running all the trails with our cross-country teams. And I originally started volunteering with the East Bay Regional Parks as a park ambassador. So definitely I'm proud to be here today, and just love working on trail issues, more access of different user groups, and then also extending trails, building trails, and more connections.
Great. Thanks, Luana. Mimi Wilson, welcome. You're here? I thought I saw her in the group. Mimi, are you here?
Yeah, she's here.
Do you know how to unmute yourself? Can I help? I don't know if I can. Maybe she stepped over. There she is. Yeah?
There.
Mimi? There you are.
Can you
I understand that folks are, yes, we can hear you. Yes,
I
thank you.
This is my first Zoom and I'm
Oh,
terrified.
well, welcome to Zoom, Mimi. Yeah, you're doing great.
And I can't get the camera to stay where I want it. So, and I keep disappearing. Wow. Please put up with me. My name is Amelia Wilson,
Okay.
but I'm going by Mimi Wilson because there's another Amelia, and with Amelia Marshall, and I don't want to be confused with her. Hi, Amelia. I live in Orinda, on the very west edge of Orinda, and my children grew up roaming free in the land that is now going to the Park District in McCosker and the Western Hills. I've spent 25 years of my life on what was called the Gateway Project to get that land into the hands of the East Bay Regional Park. So I have a very personal interest in the trails in the Park District. I've been with Regional Parks Association for the last 15, 20 years, and I'm currently chair. I noticed that Brian put Regional Parks Association in sort of a category all by itself, not categorized as one thing or another. We can be considered as sort of a friends of the Regional Parks District. We're a group that's almost 70 years old. We're almost always friends of the Regional Park District, but when we see policies that we're not happy with, we are willing to criticize and talk with the Park District. For those of you who were interested in how trails are developed, I would suggest you go to the Trails Manual, which I would hope that the Park District, Sean, has online. It talks about how trails are developed. Regional Parks has put out a white paper that I also sent through the Park District digitally. If anyone is interested, Brian Holt and Devan should have it also.
Great.
Our concern since our board probably has more Titanic body parts than most boards at our age, safety on the trails is one of our concerns. We hope that that can be discussed as an important aspect in not only developing trails, but designating which trails. We do, like Adele, not believe that all trails should have all uses on them.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, Mimi. Let's move on to Helen Burke.
Hi, I'm Helen Burke, and I'm with STEP, Safe Trails Environmental Protection, which is an alliance of 7 environmental groups that was formed around Eb Mud when they were developing their watershed master plan. And initially they were considering bikes, allowing bikes on 4 narrow trails that were primarily used for hiking. And we were very concerned, a lot of people were very concerned about the environmental impact and particularly the safety issue of allowing bikes on hilly, narrow trails. And that's why the alliance was formed. So I hear, you know, various cries for, or pleas for more mountain bike access, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, but I remain opposed to it in unsafe conditions on narrow trails. And I think one thing we have to remember, I think the Park District has done a great job of getting this effort underway, and I appreciate that. I think that we have a very diverse group here, which I think is great. But one thing I'm concerned about is the lack of a majority of user group at the Park District, which is the pedestrian angle. And I don't see one person from a hiking group, for example. And if you look at the user surveys that the Park District has done, the some over 90% in some of their studies are pedestrian users, photographers, baby strollers, joggers, birders, native plants enthusiasts, and so on. So I think we do have to keep in mind that there is a large number of people out there that are not represented not adequately represented in this group today, and that is the hiking group, or the I would say pedestrian uses. So in terms of what I'd like to get out of this is I do think this group could be very instrumental in working through some controversial issues, like how do we decide on what new trails should be, how wide should they be, how many, should they all be multi-use? I don't know, because I've heard other people say they like single track, people like the really narrow trails. Mm-hmm. So I think that needs to be worked out, and Ordinance 38 needs to reflect whatever it is we come to in the end. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thanks, Helen. Thank you so much. The last one on our list is Jess Brown. Thanks for being patient and waiting. And Jess, are you here?
I am. Yes.
Great.
Thank
there
you.
You are.
Thank
yeah.
you. This is quite the who's who call here, except for me. I'm Jess Brown. I'm the president for the Regional Park Foundation, representing the Regional Parks Foundation today. And I think our motto, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, is access for all. And we're really expanding that more recently. We had developed a diversity and equity inclusion task force late last year. And we we're really exploring how we moving that into really welcoming to all and including and diverse populations as well, even further than just the general access for all. One to get access is another to feel welcome, and truly, it's really your park. So I really love the discussion we're having here, particularly as it relates to the trail. Myself personally, like many, if not all of you, love the trails, walking, hiking, trail running more recently, and just looking forward to listening and evolving the discussion. So that's it.